Hello YouTube, my name is Caitlin Ford. I am a professional hairstylist from St. Louis, Missouri, and I have a secret to share with you guys. I am missing my index finger on my right hand. So I wanted to share my story about how I became a finger amputee with you guys. It has been quite the journey. I'm still kind of going through it. I actually lost my finger on October 3rd, 2018. So this is still like very fresh to me. It's very new to me. A lot of people are probably going to think that I cut my finger off at work. So I'm just going to squash that right here. I did not cut my finger off with scissors. I cut my finger off on a table saw. A lot of people are probably just going to straight up say like, what were you doing with a table saw? Why didn't you have your husband do that for you? Or this is why women shouldn't use power tools. There are plenty of fucking men who have cut their fingers off on table saws. We're not going there, honey. I did not operate the table saw with my vagina. I am just the type of person who gets a lot of like enjoyment and fulfillment with working with my hands. I really enjoy making things, and you know, the thing is, this was not my first time turning on a table saw. I didn't just get up one day and say, today's the day. Today's the day I fire up that saw and see what happens. No, that's not what happened. So let's talk about what happened. I was making some shelves for work. I was using a table saw and the table saw kicked back. For those of you who don't know, kickback happens when the blade kind of gets hung up on the wood that you're working with, and basically the saw throws the wood back at you. The thing is, these saws, they have an enormous amount of torque to them. So like when it throws that wood, it's a very, very like powerful thing. So the saw kicked back, my hand slid sideways like that. My finger was gone. Like there was no resistance. It was like a hot knife through butter. And luckily in the moment I had the wherewithal to pull my hand away, because if you see here the way that came off, I mean, if I hadn't pulled my hand away, like as the blade was going through my finger, I would have taken my thumb off too. There are definitely like moments about like when it happened that are so like distinct and awful. Probably one of the things that I remember the most about when it happened is when I went to put my hand around my nub or whatever. There was like nothing left except for like a little like corner of a bone shard. Have you ever put your hand over like the end of a hose that's running, like that running water, like you feel the water pressure? Well, when I put my hand over, literally there was a stream of blood coming out, hitting me in the hand as I'm covering my other hand. Obviously blood was coming out of my hand, but I did not realize like how much blood could come out of something like that. Like I just remember thinking like, holy fucking shit, what did I just do? This is not real life. There's no way that this is actually happening. I'm gonna wake up from this fucking nightmare and I'm gonna have my finger back on my hand. Like this cannot be real. I was sawing in the backyard. My neighbor heard me screaming. I ran up to him like with my hand like bleeding, like, oh my God, help me, I fucking just cut off my finger. He was just like, calm down, calm the fuck down, you're gonna be okay, you're not dying. He calls 911. While my neighbor is on the phone with 911, I decided to start looking in the yard for my finger, because I was like, you know, hopefully they can fucking put it back on. I could not find my finger. I didn't see where it went. Obviously I was distracted by severing my own limb, so I didn't like watch it like fly off into the distance. And I seriously thought that the finger like fell into the saw and was just like obliterated. The paramedics show up. While the paramedics are taking care of me, my neighbor, like I see him like squatting in the yard like behind them, and all of a sudden he goes, hey look, I found your finger. Oh my God. They pick up my finger off the ground and they put it in ice, and I get rushed to the hospital. I've never been in an ambulance before. I've never had surgery. I've never been like admitted into the hospital or anything like that before. Up until this point, I've managed to keep my body intact, so I have not had this problem before. So I get to the hospital and they roll me into the emergency room. And there's like fucking 70 people in there. Like, I swear to God, this thing is packed to the gills. I had makeup on. I cried it all off. Like, there was one point where I'd like take my hand away and put it against my face. I looked like I had been straight to fucking hell and then came back out of hell. Like, that is what I looked like. When they rolled me around the corner, it was like everyone's heads turned and they were like, oh my God. My hand was wrapped up. I'm sure they couldn't see what happened to me, but obviously, whatever it wasn't fucking good. I get into the like room with the doctor, and the doctor has this freaking like assistant student person with her, like one of those training people. And this is so ridiculous. Like, thinking about this makes me really like pissed off all over again. The doctor and the assistant, between the two of them, it was just like two halves of a fucking idiot sandwich. The fucking student, or whatever you call them, resident, it was like it was fucking Christmas morning for her. When I was explaining what happened, I cut my finger off with the table saw. She literally got this look of fucking glee on her face that made me want to grab her by the back of her hair and bash her head in. Like, she was a horrible human being. She like had this look of glee on her face. She's like, oh my God, you cut your finger off? Like, oh my God, do you have the finger with you? Like, can I see it? Like, I'm like, bitch, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and you're acting like this is the best thing that's ever happened to you. I need you to back up before I fucking lose it. So after this lady goes through having her orgasm over the fact that I cut my finger off, I was not experiencing a whole bunch of pain at that point. Like, initially I was in shock. It did not take long before the pain started setting in, and God damn it, it was the worst pain that I've ever felt in my entire life. I am crying, not only because I fucking just cut my finger off, but also because I am in pain. The doctor's like, so are you crying because you are in pain, or? I just cut my finger off on a table saw. What do you think? Anyway, so eventually I get rolled back in and admitted or whatever. About an hour and a half into it, somebody finally came and administered morphine to me, and that was the first time I've ever had morphine before. That was an experience. So before they take me into surgery, I had numerous doctors come to me and kind of explain the process of a reimplantation and what that meant. And, you know, they, you know, like, doctors have to be like super honest with you. They have to tell you like the absolute like worst of what to expect. Like, that's part of their jobs. So I was told by everyone, like, listen, like, we're gonna do this. You have to understand that even if this is successful, you will not have hardly any range of motion in your finger again. You'll probably never have feeling in your finger again, and you'll probably be in pain all the time. Do you want to do this? And I was like, bitch, put that finger back on. I am not gonna not try. Like, it's not gonna not happen. Like, they were like, you know, a lot of people end up getting it cut off again later. I was like, I will do that option if I need to, but we're gonna try. So try we did. And so the surgical team got together. I had surgeons introduce themselves to me. I was rolled into the operating room, and the last thing I remember was having the mask put over my face and going to sleep. So it was probably about 6:30 or 7 o'clock on October 3rd when I went into surgery. And then I woke up like very early in the morning the next morning with my finger reattached. It was a 10-hour surgery that they had to do like underneath like a microscope, basically, like, because obviously your fingers are a very small, delicate area, and so they're having to like reattach all these like little itty bitty arteries and stuff like that. So the doctors explained to me, like, we had like a really good experience with your operation, and pretty much immediately when we got things all hooked up, you had the same pulse in your reimplanted finger as you did in your other index finger. So when I woke up, like, my arm was like suspended in this thing, They had this big thing wrapped around it that looked like almost like an inflatable bounce house. This thing was being pumped with hot air. The reason for that is they have to keep your limb like lots of heat circulating around it, because that is supposed to like encourage blood flow and keep blood going into your implanted area. I was in this room that was heated to like 82 degrees or something crazy like that. It was like hot as the fucking sun in there. So I'm sweating my ass off, my arms up. And so things that first day after that initial surgery were looking very, very good. They were actually keeping me off of liquids for 24 hours just in case I had to go back into surgery. And things were going so well that evening, my doctors was like, yeah, she can have some chicken broth and some Jell-O and some fucking ice chips. She's a boss. She's got this finger back on and staying on. I go to sleep. I wake up the next day, so like one full day of my finger being reattached. I was told the night before by my nurse, she was like, the doctors are probably gonna wake you up really early the next morning because they're gonna do your first bandage change, and then we're also going to have a splint made for you tomorrow. So the next morning I get woken up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, like with, you know, like my team coming into my room, and they start like taking my hand down. They take it out of the big bounce capsule, and they started taking the bandages off and everything like that. So that was my first time seeing my finger like reattached, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a picture in here so that you guys can see what everything looked like. So yeah, that is what my finger looked like reattached. They took the bandages off, they cleaned it, they, you know, rebandaged it back up, and then a occupational therapist came in and she started making a splint for my hand. This is the point where things started to go sideways. Having your limb suspended and surrounded by heat is literally like the most important thing about like keeping a reimplanted limb like alive. So basically, she's making this splint for me, and I'm just laying there and I'm kind of noticing it's taking a significant amount of time. Like I started to feel anxious about it. Like I started to feel like, is this okay? Like my arm has been like not suspended and out of heat for quite a while, and I keep being told how important this is. As she is fitting me for my splint, like somewhere along the line, like during her like really struggling like to fit this thing around my hand and make it work and make it stay, like she's kind of like knocking into my finger, and so all of a sudden the pulse monitor in my finger flatlines, like completely flatlines. All of the machines started going crazy. So my nurse ran into the room. He's like, how long has her arm been down? How long has it been out of heat? The occupational therapist is just kind of like stunned and just like deer in headlights, like, ooh, I don't know. My nurse ends up calling the doctors because obviously this is like not a good situation. The doctors come and they take a look at everything. Eventually they have to deliver to me the news that things are not going according to plan anymore, and I am going to have to go into another surgery. I was taken into another surgery that afternoon. I woke up that evening, like later on in the evening. My doctors were there and they said, Ms. Ford, we're really sorry to have to tell you this. After this second surgery, things were going good. You did have a pulse initially, and then about an hour and a half after surgery, it stopped. Unfortunately, at this point, the more times we go in and put you under and take you into surgery and everything like that, the less chance of success that we have. That is like the moment that I realized that this is for real, and this is like for life. I am not walking out of this hospital like with my finger. Like it is absolutely unequivocally it is gone. It's gone. They were like, there's still a chance that like your blood vessels could be spasmed and they could dilate and your pulse could return or whatever. You know, they're like giving me these like little like, ooh, you might have a chance, but like really we know that you're kind of fucked. They're like, we're gonna take you into surgery again the next morning. and we're gonna remove the finger like if things don't improve, because obviously we can't leave like a dead limb attached to your body anymore. What ended up happening is I woke up the next morning and still didn't have the pulse in my finger, and my finger was declared dead. Dead at the scene. Like, up until this point, I had been kind of joking around like on my Instagram page, talking to other people like while I'm going through this, because I'm like literally just sitting in a hospital with nothing else to do. And so I'm talking with, you know, like my friends and stuff on Instagram and giving them the updates. So I go from like, things are going great, you guys, to like, no, like I am actually going to lose this finger, and that sucks. I got woken up early the next morning, and they take me in for my like final surgery, which was really crazy. It's really nuts, like the difference between like a surgery to try and reattach your finger versus a surgery to take off your finger. My first surgery was 10 hours long, and my last surgery was like an hour and a half long. So then I wake up for my surgery. I think at this point it's maybe like 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. They took me back to my room, and they're like, we're gonna get the pharmacist up here to like give you your prescriptions and like tell you how to use them and everything like that, and then you get to go home, which was like crazy to me. Like, I just had like my finger amputated, and I like literally like a couple hours later like get to go home. So by like, I think 1 o'clock, I was in the car and going home. Like, the whole thing is like the Twilight Zone. It all happens so fast, and it all is over so fast. So in conclusion, that is the big, long, arduous tale about how I fucking cut my finger off and lost it forever. I always kind of thought about getting on YouTube to like do hair and stuff. My hands are covered in color because I literally just filmed coloring my bangs, so I'm planning on posting a video eventually of how I do this right here. So if you're interested in that, definitely please like and subscribe. I wanted to start with a video of kind of sharing my story, so that like in the next videos coming, that people aren't seeing my hand and being like, whew, does that girl have 4 fingers? Like, what is going on with that? Because I know that it's gonna be something that people kind of pick up on, even though it's not like necessarily like in your face or anything. I do know that people have some pretty keen eyes, and it's gonna come up. So I'd rather just kind of nip it in the bud and start off with the video where we talk about why this happened. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch and listen and, you know, feel whatever. And also make sure that if you're not following me on Instagram, you follow me on Instagram. If you want to know more about my story and kind of see like more in depth about what happened to me, I actually have a highlight reel on my Instagram page. It's called Frankenfinger. It is basically all the stories that I was posting while I was in the hospital and everything like that. So if you want to check that out, you can. Follow me on Instagram at Caitlin Ford Hair. Like and subscribe to my channel if you like weird hair shit. I will be posting more weird hair shit. And drop a comment below and let me know if there are any other videos you'd like me to do, if you want me to cover any other conversations or topics about like what happened to me, if you have any questions or anything like that. If there are some questions that I see like repeated a few times, I might even do a follow-up video about this. So yeah, let me know how you felt, and I'll see you guys later.